The mornings began to blend into one another, each day a mirror of the last. I would wake up to the sound of my husband's soft snoring, the familiar rhythm oddly comforting yet suffocating. The sun filtered through the sheer curtains, casting a warm glow over our bedroom, but it never reached my heart. I shuffled into the kitchen, where the aroma of coffee filled the air. It was a ritual, one that had lost its charm long ago. As I poured myself a cup, I glanced at the calendar hanging on the wall. A local festival was approaching, an annual event that used to excite me. Now it felt like just another obligation. I could picture the vibrant colors and hear laughter echoing through the streets of Asheville, but it all seemed distant, like a dream fading upon waking. After breakfast, I would head out for my daily routine, an unremarkable job at a local bookstore where I spent hours shelving books and helping customers find their next read. The shop was quaint, nestled between a bakery and a small cafe. On slow days, I would sit near the window with a novel in hand, watching people pass by. They were vibrant, young couples holding hands, families laughing as they strolled to nearby breweries for afternoon tastings. But I remained an observer in my own life. My husband rarely noticed my absence during these moments of solitude. He was too absorbed in his own world. We had become strangers sharing space rather than partners navigating life together. The silence between us grew heavier each day. One particular afternoon, as I sat flipping through pages of an old novel in the cafe next door during my lunch break, something caught my eye, a man sitting alone at a table across from me. He was engrossed in his laptop but occasionally looked up and scanned the room as if searching for something or someone. There was something intriguing about him that stirred an unfamiliar sensation within me. I returned to my book but couldn't shake off the feeling that he was somehow aware of my presence. Our eyes met briefly before I quickly looked down at my coffee cup. The warmth seeped through my fingers as I took a sip, trying to dismiss this unexpected flutter in my chest. Days turned into weeks, and our paths crossed more often than not at that cafe. Each time he appeared, there was an unspoken connection lingering in the air between us, a spark igniting curiosity and longing within me that had long been dormant. It felt exhilarating yet terrifying. One evening while reorganizing bookshelves at work, I stumbled upon an old love letter tucked inside a weathered paperback novel. The faded ink spoke of passion and dreams shared between two lovers who had once been inseparable but now were worlds apart. Reading those words transported me back to moments when love felt alive and vibrant, a stark contrast to what had become of my own marriage. I clutched the letter tightly as if it held secrets meant only for me. It stirred memories of youthful hope and possibility that now seemed lost forever amidst mundane routines and unfulfilled desires. "Is everything all right?" a voice interrupted my thoughts. I looked up to find him standing there, curiosity etched across his face as he gestured toward the letter peeking out from between pages. "Oh. Yes," I stammered, quickly tucking it away as embarrassment washed over me. He smiled gently. It was warm and inviting, a stark contrast to how coldly I felt inside most days. "Just found something interesting," I managed to say before retreating back into silence. After that encounter, our exchanges became more frequent. We would share fleeting glances that lingered longer than necessary and brief conversations about books we loved or places we wanted to visit someday. Yet with every moment spent together came an increasing weight of guilt pressing down upon me like leaden chains binding me to choices made long ago, choices that now felt suffocating in their permanence. At times during our conversations over coffee or stolen moments outside work when no one else was around, laughter would bubble forth unexpectedly between us, an antidote against loneliness seeping into every crack of my existence. But then reality would crash back down like thunder after lightning. What was happening here? Was this mere distraction or something deeper? Each smile exchanged carried consequences beyond what either of us dared acknowledge aloud. Still, curiosity thrived within me despite knowing better than to entertain such thoughts too deeply. One afternoon while walking through downtown Asheville on our way back from lunch together at a nearby food truck festival, a place filled with enticing aromas wafting through sunlit streets, I found myself glancing sideways at him more often than usual. His presence ignited warmth within me unlike anything experienced before amid life's drudgery. "Do you think it's possible," he asked suddenly as if reading my mind without needing words spoken aloud, "to feel alive again after being stuck for so long?" His question hung heavy in the air between us, a challenge wrapped within sincerity, and for just one heartbeat everything else faded away. All doubts vanished momentarily beneath layers of connection blossoming unexpectedly amidst chaos surrounding our lives outside this moment shared together under blue skies dotted with cotton clouds drifting lazily overhead like forgotten dreams waiting patiently for revival themselves someday soon too perhaps? "I don't know," came out softly from somewhere deep within me, the truth surfacing despite fears threatening its emergence into daylight once more. It felt liberating yet terrifying all at once. What could have been? As we parted ways later that day with promises made lightly about meeting again soon enough, I couldn't shake off lingering thoughts clouding clarity surrounding choices ahead looming ominously near. Uncertainty coiled tightly around heartstrings tethering them precariously close toward unknown futures awaiting discovery just beyond horizon's edge beckoning ever onward. What could have been? As I navigated through the bustling streets of Asheville, the vibrant colors of the local festival danced before my eyes. The air was thick with laughter and the enticing aromas from food trucks that lined the park. For a moment, I allowed myself to be swept away by the festive atmosphere, forgetting the weight of my unfulfilled marriage. The laughter of children mingled with the distant sound of live music, creating a backdrop that felt almost surreal. I found myself drawn to a booth showcasing handmade pottery. My fingers grazed over the cool, smooth surfaces as I admired each piece, but my thoughts drifted elsewhere. I couldn't help but think about him, the stranger whose presence had ignited something within me. My heart raced at the thought of seeing him again, yet guilt gnawed at me like an unwelcome shadow. "Can you believe how beautiful this is?" A voice broke through my reverie. It was a woman standing beside me, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "Yes," I replied absently, forcing a smile as I turned to her. "It's lovely." "Are you here alone?" she asked, tilting her head curiously. I hesitated before answering. "Just taking in the sights." "Ah," she said knowingly. "Sometimes it's nice to have some time for yourself." Her words lingered in my mind as I walked away from the booth. The festival buzzed around me, yet all I could think about was how different my life felt now compared to just weeks ago. The moments we shared were small, just fleeting glances and accidental brushes of hands, but they were enough to awaken feelings long dormant within me. Later that evening, as twilight settled over Asheville, I found myself at a local brewery where we had agreed to meet again. The warm glow of string lights overhead created an intimate atmosphere that contrasted sharply with my mundane life at home. I spotted him leaning casually against the bar, his presence commanding yet approachable. "Hey," he greeted with a smile that sent butterflies swirling in my stomach. "Hi," I replied softly, feeling both nervous and exhilarated. We settled into a corner table where laughter filled the air around us. As we talked about everything and nothing, our favorite local spots and childhood memories, I felt walls crumbling inside me. Each shared story pulled us closer together until it became harder to distinguish between friendship and something deeper. "I've been thinking about what you said last time," he confessed after a while, his gaze steady on mine. "About feeling lost." I nodded slowly, his words resonated deeply within me. "Sometimes it feels like we're just going through the motions," he continued thoughtfully. "Like we're living someone else's life." His honesty struck a chord within me, and for a moment, it felt as though we were alone in our own little world amidst the chaos of laughter and clinking glasses surrounding us. "I never expected to feel this way," I admitted quietly, vulnerability creeping into my voice. He leaned closer across the table, our eyes locked in an unspoken understanding that hung heavily between us, a tension charged with possibilities yet fraught with risks. And then it happened, a moment so unexpected that time seemed to freeze around us. We kissed softly. It felt like more than just an act born out of impulse. It was as if two souls had finally recognized each other after years of wandering alone in darkness. The kiss lingered on my lips long after it ended, warmth spread through me like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. But as reality crashed back in, so did guilt, sharp and insistent, reminding me of everything at stake. "What are we doing?" I whispered breathlessly, pulling back slightly to gauge his reaction. His expression shifted from elation to concern as he processed my question. "I don't know," he admitted honestly, running a hand through his hair in frustration. "But it feels right." I wanted desperately to believe him, however. Doubts crept back into my mind like unwelcome guests at a party. My husband's face flashed before me alongside memories filled with indifference and loneliness that had characterized our marriage for far too long. "I shouldn't be here," I murmured under my breath while scanning our surroundings nervously for prying eyes. What if someone saw us? What would they think? He reached across the table again. His fingers brushed against mine gently but firmly, a silent promise that we were in this together despite everything threatening to unravel around us. "We can take things slow," he suggested softly, his voice low enough only for me to hear above lively chatter surrounding us. But even those words felt heavy, laden with consequences waiting just beyond reach, like shadows lurking behind every corner of this newfound intimacy. As night deepened outside and patrons began trickling out one by one into cool mountain air beyond walls enclosing us here, the weight of our choices settled heavy upon both our shoulders, each heartbeat echoing louder than before, reminding me just how precarious this path had become since embarking on it together only days prior. Would this lead somewhere meaningful or simply serve as another fleeting escape? The uncertainty hung thickly between us until finally he broke the silence once more. "Let's meet again tomorrow." My heart raced at his request. Anticipation mingled with fear coursed through me like electricity sparking between two wires readying themselves for connection. But could we really go down this road knowing what lay ahead? "Yes," I replied hesitantly before adding softly, "but let's be careful." As we parted ways beneath flickering streetlights illuminating our separate paths leading homeward, I couldn't shake off lingering thoughts clouding clarity surrounding choices ahead looming ominously near. Uncertainty coiled tightly around heartstrings, tethering them precariously close toward unknown futures awaiting discovery just beyond horizon's edge, beckoning ever onward. The days drifted into a rhythm that felt both comforting and unsettling. I found myself looking forward to the moments I could steal away, the brief encounters that punctuated my otherwise mundane life. Each time I saw him, my heart raced with a mixture of excitement and fear. The neighbor's gaze lingered too long, his suspicions growing sharper with each shared smile or fleeting touch. One afternoon, as I sat on a bench in the city park, the vibrant colors of autumn leaves painted a backdrop for our secret meetings. The air was crisp, filled with laughter from children playing nearby. I watched them chase each other, their joy contrasting sharply with my own internal conflict. He approached slowly, hands tucked into his pockets, casual yet purposeful. "Hey," he said softly, taking a seat beside me. "You look deep in thought." "Just thinking about everything," I replied, glancing around to ensure no one was watching us too closely. "It feels like we're walking a tightrope." He chuckled lightly but then grew serious. "I know what you mean. It's exhilarating and terrifying all at once." Our conversation flowed easily, as it always did. We shared stories about our days, mundane details that somehow felt significant in this hidden space we carved out for ourselves. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the park, our laughter faded into contemplative silence. Then he reached out and brushed his fingers against mine, a simple gesture that sent shivers down my spine. Our lips met unexpectedly in that serene setting, an unplanned moment suspended in time. It felt like coming home and stepping into unknown territory simultaneously. But even as warmth spread through me, a nagging voice warned of the consequences lurking just beyond our bubble of intimacy. The neighbor had been watching us more closely than before. I could sense it in his furtive glances whenever we crossed paths. His presence loomed like a storm cloud ready to burst. After parting ways that day, unease settled over me like a heavy cloak. Every interaction with him now felt laden with risk. Each stolen moment was overshadowed by the possibility of exposure. My heart raced not just from affection but from fear of what might happen if anyone discovered our secret. The next few days unfolded in a haze of anxiety and longing. I tried to maintain normalcy at home while my mind wandered to him constantly. Simple tasks became monumental challenges as guilt gnawed at me from within, a constant reminder of my duplicity. I found myself wandering back to the cafe where we first met on that fateful day, its familiar aroma wrapping around me like an old sweater. Sitting alone at a small table in the corner, I sipped coffee while observing couples around me, some engaged in lively conversation while others sat quietly together, lost in their own worlds. A couple nearby caught my attention. They were laughing softly over shared memories while stealing glances into each other's eyes, a stark contrast to the silence that enveloped my own marriage at home. "Are you okay?" A voice broke through my reverie. I looked up to find the barista peering at me with concern etched on her face. "Yes," I managed to say, forcing a smile despite feeling anything but okay. As she walked away, I couldn't help but wonder how many others felt this way, trapped between desire and obligation while desperately seeking something more fulfilling. Days turned into weeks as our secret meetings continued amidst rising tension from the neighbor's watchful eyes. Each encounter brought both joy and dread. Every brush of his hand against mine ignited sparks yet also heightened awareness of how precarious our situation had become. One evening after another stolen kiss beneath fading twilight hues, he leaned closer and whispered something that sent chills down my spine. "What if we don't have to hide anymore?" The words hung heavy between us like an unspoken promise wrapped in uncertainty. My heart raced at the thought, but fear quickly followed suit. There were too many risks involved. The potential fallout could shatter everything I held dear. "I don't know if we can," I replied cautiously, searching his eyes for understanding. "What if we just took some time?" he suggested gently. "Maybe we could figure things out without all this secrecy weighing us down." His proposition lingered long after we parted ways that night, the idea of liberation mingling dangerously with reality's harsh constraints pressing down on me like an anchor threatening to drag me under. As much as I craved connection and warmth amidst emotional coldness at home, it wasn't just about us anymore. It was about choices made, and consequences looming ahead ready to pounce when least expected. The following days blurred together under mounting pressure until one afternoon when fate intervened unexpectedly during an outing at a local festival celebrating Asheville's vibrant culture. A kaleidoscope of colors swirling around us amid laughter echoing through bustling streets filled with food trucks serving tantalizing aromas wafting through warm air under clear skies above. We navigated through throngs of people together, his presence grounding me amidst chaos surrounding us. But even here among joyful revelers enjoying life's simple pleasures, I couldn't shake off nagging thoughts about what lay outside this bubble we created for ourselves. What awaited back home where shadows lingered ever closer. As dusk settled over festival grounds bathed in soft lights twinkling overhead, I caught sight of him watching from afar as he conversed intently with someone else, a fleeting moment where uncertainty gripped me tightly again. Was it jealousy? Or fear? Perhaps both intertwined like threads weaving intricate patterns within heartstrings tautly pulled by conflicting emotions battling for control. Suddenly aware that time was slipping away faster than anticipated, I turned abruptly toward exit leading toward quieter corners where solitude beckoned enticingly, but before reaching safety behind familiar walls, I heard footsteps trailing closely behind, my pulse quickening instinctively sensing danger lurking nearby. The neighbor appeared unexpectedly just moments later, blocking path ahead, staring intently, suspicion etched across features betraying underlying tension simmering beneath surface barely contained any longer. "What's going on here?" he demanded sharply, cutting through festive atmosphere surrounding us, leaving little room for evasion or escape, now looming ominously close, threatening everything built upon fragile foundation, precariously balanced atop hidden truths waiting, inevitably unraveling before eyes wide open, unable to look away. Caught between two worlds spiraling downward toward inevitable confrontation, I stood frozen, unable to respond, while uncertainty coiled tightly around heartstrings, threatening to snap under pressure mounting ever higher, pushing boundaries toward unknown territories, waiting patiently beyond horizon, beckoning ever onward. The tension hung thick in the air, a palpable weight pressing down on me as I stood there, caught off guard. The neighbor's piercing gaze bore into me, demanding answers I wasn't prepared to give. My heart raced, each beat echoing the unspoken truths that swirled around us like the colorful streamers fluttering in the festival breeze. "What's going on here?" he repeated, his tone sharp enough to cut through the laughter and music that filled the park. I could feel the eyes of nearby festival goers drifting toward us, curiosity piqued by our standoff. I glanced sideways at the stranger, my heart racing even faster. He stood beside me, his expression a mix of concern and resolve. The warmth of his presence had become a comfort, a stark contrast to the coldness I had grown accustomed to at home. Yet here we were, exposed and vulnerable under the weight of scrutiny. "Nothing," I managed to say, my voice barely above a whisper. It felt inadequate against the storm brewing around us. "Nothing," he scoffed, disbelief etched across his features. "You think I don't see what's happening? You two have been getting awfully cozy." The stranger shifted slightly closer to me, an instinctive move of protection or perhaps solidarity. I could sense his tension mirrored my own. We were both teetering on the edge of something we couldn't quite name but knew was significant. In that moment, memories flooded back, of stolen glances and lingering touches that had ignited something deep within me during our secret meetings. The thrill of those moments now felt tainted by this confrontation. "Look," I said finally, trying to steady my voice. "It's not what you think." "Then what is it?" he pressed, crossing his arms defensively as if bracing for whatever revelation might come next. Before I could respond, something shifted inside me. A realization crystallized amid my swirling emotions. I had been living in shadows for too long, shadows cast by a marriage that felt more like a prison than a partnership. The stranger beside me offered warmth and understanding that had been absent from my life for years. But just then, a flicker of doubt crept in as I thought about my husband, the man who had once been my everything but now felt like a ghost haunting our home. The thought of him stirred an unexpected pang of guilt deep within me. "I need some air," I blurted out suddenly, turning away from both men and moving toward a quieter corner of the park where vibrant flowers bloomed amid lush greenery. As I walked away, I could hear their voices fading behind me, an echo of concern mixed with frustration. My mind raced with conflicting thoughts about what it meant to pursue this connection with someone new while still being tethered to my past. I found solace beneath an old oak tree whose branches stretched wide above me like protective arms shielding me from judgmental eyes. Leaning against its sturdy trunk, I closed my eyes for just a moment and allowed myself to breathe deeply. What was happening between us felt undeniable, a slow burn igniting into something more profound than mere attraction or fleeting desire. We spent the night together last week. It was an experience that shattered every expectation I had set for myself after years of emotional neglect. Yet now that memory felt tainted by this confrontation, a reminder that our secret was fragile and could unravel at any moment if exposed to harsh light. As I opened my eyes again, feeling rejuvenated yet still conflicted about everything unfolding around me, another realization struck. My husband had been distant lately, not just emotionally but physically as well. It wasn't only about our lack of intimacy, there were signs he was hiding something from me too, something significant enough that it changed how I viewed our marriage entirely. Just then, footsteps approached from behind, the stranger finding me beneath the oak tree with concern etched across his face. "I'm sorry about him," he said softly as he joined me under its sheltering branches. "He doesn't understand." "No," I replied quietly but firmly. "He doesn't." A comfortable silence enveloped us before he spoke again. "What do you want?" That question hung heavy in the air between us, a simple yet profound inquiry that demanded an answer rooted deep within my heart. My voice trailed off as uncertainty clouded my thoughts once more. What did I truly want? To escape? To be free? Or perhaps simply to feel alive again? Before I could gather my thoughts further or respond adequately to his question, a sudden realization hit hard. If things continued down this path without resolution or honesty between all parties involved, there would be consequences far beyond mere emotional fallout waiting just outside our fragile bubble filled with stolen moments and whispered secrets shared beneath starry skies. As if sensing my internal struggle weighing heavily upon me, the stranger reached out gently, taking hold of my hand, bringing warmth where doubt lingered, coldly threatening everything around us, once more unraveling its seams frayed beyond repair. It was then everything shifted once again. The neighbor appeared in view, breaking through our moment, leaving no room for retreat or evasion anymore. Now standing tall before us, ready to confront whatever truths lay hidden beneath layers built over years spent avoiding realities lurking just beyond reach. "Are you going to tell her?" he asked pointedly, directing his gaze toward the stranger who held onto my hand tightly, anchoring both fear and hope intertwined within one grasp, trembling slightly under pressure mounting ever higher, threatening all we'd built upon fragile foundations laid bare before. Prying eyes unwillingly drawn into this tangled web woven intricately between lives intersecting unexpectedly, now facing inevitable reckoning ahead. The moment hung in the air, taut and unyielding, as the neighbor's question echoed in my mind. I could see the tension on the stranger's face, his grip on my hand tightening as if he sensed the impending storm. The words left unspoken between us felt like a heavy weight pressing down, suffocating yet electrifying. "Are you going to tell her?" The neighbor's voice cut through the silence again, sharper this time. I glanced at him, a mix of anger and fear surging within me. How dare he intrude upon this fragile moment? Yet, there was no denying that his presence had shattered our bubble of intimacy. The stranger hesitated, his eyes darting between us. He began but faltered. I could see his mind racing, caught between loyalty to me and the reality of our situation. My heart raced alongside his uncertainty. I took a breath, trying to regain some semblance of control over my emotions. "This isn't your business," I said quietly but firmly, hoping to deflect the attention back onto myself rather than letting it linger on him. "Isn't it?" the neighbor challenged, folding his arms across his chest as if preparing for battle. "You think I haven't seen you two together? You think I don't know what's going on?" A rush of heat flooded my cheeks as shame washed over me. I wanted to deny everything, that we were merely friends sharing moments of connection, but that would be a lie. The truth was evident in every stolen glance and whispered word exchanged under the cover of night. "What do you want from us?" I asked, my voice trembling slightly despite my efforts to sound composed. "I want you to think about what you're doing," he replied coolly, a note of concern creeping into his tone. "This isn't just some fling, it's real life." The stranger finally spoke up again, breaking through the tension that had settled like a dense fog around us. "I care about her," he said simply but with conviction. His words hung in the air like a promise yet felt like a challenge too, a declaration that stirred something deep within me. "And what about your husband?" the neighbor shot back, eyes narrowing with skepticism. "What will he say when he finds out?" A chill ran down my spine at the thought of my husband's reaction, the man who had been distant for so long now suddenly looming large in my mind like an unwelcome shadow. It was too easy to forget him when lost in this new connection, too easy to dismiss how much had been sacrificed for fleeting moments of joy. I don't know, I whispered finally, feeling trapped between two worlds, one filled with safety and predictability and another pulsing with desire and risk. In that moment of vulnerability, everything shifted once more as reality crashed down around us like waves against rocky shores. The stranger's face fell slightly. I could see doubt creeping into his eyes where before there had been warmth and assurance. Maybe we should end this, I suggested suddenly, my voice barely above a whisper but resolute nonetheless. My heart raced at the thought, the possibility of walking away from something that had begun to feel so vital yet equally destructive. Don't say that, he urged softly but firmly, stepping closer to me while still holding onto my hand as if anchoring me against the tide threatening to pull me away from him entirely. But before any further words could be exchanged or decisions made regarding our fates intertwined precariously together amidst tangled emotions laid bare before prying eyes, the sound of tires crunching gravel reached our ears, followed by an unmistakable figure emerging from a car parked nearby, my husband. Panic surged through me like wildfire, igniting every nerve ending as dread settled heavily upon my chest. He was not supposed to be here, not today. Not now, when everything felt so precarious, already teetering on the edge, ready to plunge headlong into chaos waiting just beneath surface calmness, masking turmoil swirling beneath it all. What are you doing here? I managed to stammer out before he could even reach us fully, his expression unreadable yet tinged with concern mixed with something else lurking just beneath surface calmness, masking turmoil swirling beneath it all. I came home early, he replied evenly, though there was an edge in his voice, a hint that something deeper lay beneath those simple words laden with implications far beyond mere timing or circumstance alone. My heart sank further as realization dawned upon me. This encounter would unravel everything we had built together. The fragile web spun from stolen moments, now threatened by harsh light shining down upon it, exposing truths long hidden away behind closed doors, left ajar ever so slightly, inviting scrutiny into lives lived quietly, tucked away from prying eyes until now. The stranger stepped back, instinctively sensing danger approaching while still holding on to remnants of hope lingering within grasp. A silent plea for understanding amidst chaos brewing all around us, threatening to engulf everything we'd come to cherish without realizing its fragility until faced directly by consequences looming large ahead, ready to strike without mercy, leaving nothing untouched. What's going on? My husband's gaze shifted between us, searching for answers hidden behind layers built over years spent avoiding realities lurking just beyond reach. I stood frozen between them, caught in an emotional whirlwind threatening to sweep me away, leaving nothing behind but echoes of choices made reverberating loudly within silence, stretching thin across distance, separating hearts once joined, now torn apart by circumstances spiraling out control, faster than could ever hope regain footing. With each heartbeat echoing louder than last, I knew one thing for certain: whatever happened next would change everything forevermore. The tension hung thick in the air, a palpable force that made it hard to breathe. The neighbor's eyes bore into mine with a mix of suspicion and concern. I could feel the weight of my secret pressing down on me, the truth threatening to spill out like an overfilled glass. Are you seeing someone? His voice was low, but the accusation was clear. I had never expected him to confront me directly, and yet here we stood, two people caught in a web of unspoken truths. My heart raced as I considered my response. I don't know what you mean, I replied, my voice steadier than I felt. I could see doubt flicker across his face, but he wasn't convinced. Don't lie to me, he pressed, stepping closer. I see how you look at him when you think no one is watching. The truth stung like a slap. He had seen the moments, the fleeting touches, the shared laughter that lingered long after we parted. It's not what you think, I managed to say, though even as the words left my mouth, I questioned their validity. He crossed his arms, frustration evident in his stance. Then what is it? Because it looks like something more than friendship. The accusation hung between us like a storm cloud ready to burst. I opened my mouth to respond but found no words that could encapsulate the complexity of my feelings or the reality of my situation. "I'm just trying to find myself again," I finally admitted, feeling vulnerable under his scrutiny. "Things have been difficult for a long time." His expression softened slightly as if he understood more than he let on. "You don't have to hide from me," he said gently. "You deserve happiness." In that moment, something shifted within me, a flicker of hope amidst the chaos of guilt and fear swirling around my heart. But before I could grasp that feeling fully, reality crashed back in like an unwelcome wave. "What if someone finds out?" The thought slipped from my lips before I could stop it. "Then we deal with it together," he replied firmly. There was strength in his words, a promise of support that made me want to believe him. But as we stood there, two people tethered by secrets, I couldn't shake off the nagging fear that this fragile connection might shatter at any moment. After our conversation faded into silence, I returned home feeling disoriented and restless. The walls felt closer than usual, each creak echoed with memories of what once was and what now threatened to be lost forever. The evening passed in a blur of mundane tasks, dinner prepared without thought and television shows watched with only half my attention. My husband's presence filled the space around me like an invisible fog. He sat on the couch engrossed in his own world while mine spiraled further into uncertainty. When night fell and darkness enveloped our home, sleep eluded me entirely. Instead, thoughts raced through my mind. What would happen if everything unraveled? Would I lose both men? Could I bear such loss? In those quiet hours filled with anxiety, a flicker of opportunity sparked within me, a chance to reclaim control over my life before it spiraled completely out of reach. The next day brought unexpected clarity as I wandered through Asheville's vibrant streets during lunch hour. The aroma of coffee wafted through the air from a nearby cafe where familiar faces greeted each other warmly, a stark contrast to my own isolation. As I sipped on my drink at an outdoor table, watching passers-by enjoy their lives without hesitation or fear of judgment, inspiration struck anew. Perhaps it was time for more than just fleeting moments hidden away from prying eyes. Maybe it was time for honesty, not only with myself but also with those who mattered most. I returned home determined yet apprehensive about how best to approach both men in my life, the one who had become an anchor amidst turmoil and another whose presence felt increasingly distant despite physical closeness. That evening unfolded differently than usual. Instead of retreating into silence after dinner as we often did, I initiated conversation with my husband, testing waters long since stagnant between us. "Do you remember when we used to go hiking together?" The question hung awkwardly between us like an old photograph waiting for dusting off after years tucked away in storage. He looked up from his phone briefly before returning attention back towards its glow without responding immediately, a familiar pattern indicating disengagement layered beneath surface-level interactions over recent months. "We should go again sometime," I pressed gently despite disappointment creeping in at lackluster enthusiasm reflected back toward me. His focus still somewhere else entirely while mine remained fixed on rekindling lost connections desperately needed within our marriage. "Sure," came his distracted reply accompanied by an absent smile lacking warmth or sincerity, an acknowledgement devoid of real interest leaving me feeling even more isolated than before despite physical proximity shared between us both under one roof built upon once promising foundations now crumbling slowly over time under weighty expectations. Unmet along paths diverged long ago. Later that night as shadows danced across walls illuminated by streetlights filtering through curtains drawn tightly shut against outside world beyond our home's confines, I found myself lost once again inside thoughts swirling endlessly around choices left unmade until now. What would happen if honesty prevailed? What if vulnerability opened doors previously closed tight against all possibility? Would risk lead toward liberation or deeper entanglement within webs spun intricately around hearts yearning for connection amid emotional coldness suffocating spaces once warm? As dawn approached silently ushering new day-filled possibilities waiting just outside reach, I lay awake wrestling uncertainty alongside desire surging fiercely beneath surface threatening break free at last. But then came realization crashing down like thunderous waves sweeping away remnants hope clung desperately onto. Whatever path chosen next carried consequences far greater than anyone could foresee, and perhaps some secrets were never meant be uncovered. The brewery buzzed with laughter and chatter, the air thick with the scent of hops and roasted grains. I clutched my glass tightly, feeling the coolness of the beer against my palm as I tried to steady my racing thoughts. The ambient noise around me faded into a distant hum, leaving me alone with my spiraling emotions. I had come here seeking clarity, but clarity seemed to elude me like a shadow slipping through my fingers. As I took a sip, the bitterness of the ale mirrored the turmoil within. My heart was a battlefield, torn between what I had known for years and what had unexpectedly ignited within me. The stranger sat across from me, his eyes reflecting concern and curiosity. He leaned in slightly, breaking through the cacophony surrounding us. "Are you okay?" he asked softly, his voice cutting through the noise like a lifeline. I nodded absently, but inside I felt anything but okay. The weight of my choices pressed down on me like an anchor pulling me into deeper waters. Just days ago, we had shared an intimate moment that blurred the lines of friendship and something more profound. Now I was left to sift through those feelings amidst the laughter of strangers. "I just need to think," I replied, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach my eyes. He studied me for a moment before nodding in understanding. "Take your time," he said gently. I turned my gaze to the window, watching people stroll by outside, couples holding hands, friends laughing together. Their joy felt foreign to me now. In that instant, I envied their simplicity, their uncomplicated lives free from secrets and hidden desires. My life had become a tangled web of choices that threatened to suffocate me. The stranger reached across the table, his fingers brushing against mine for just a heartbeat longer than necessary. It sent an electric jolt through me, a reminder of everything we had shared in stolen moments behind closed doors and shaded parks. But as quickly as it began, he withdrew his hand as if sensing my internal struggle. "I've been thinking," he ventured cautiously, "about what happens next." His words hung in the air between us like unspoken promises waiting to be fulfilled. My heart raced at what he might say next, uncertainty clawed at my insides. What did I want? Did I want him? Or was it merely the thrill of breaking free from my mundane existence? "Next?" I echoed hesitantly. He leaned back slightly, his expression serious yet tender. "What if we took a leap? Away from this, whatever it is." The thought sent shivers down my spine. A leap meant change and uncertainty beyond what I could fathom at that moment. A part of me yearned for that escape, another part clung desperately to familiarity despite its coldness. "Leap?" My voice trembled slightly as doubt crept in again. "Yes." He paused before continuing carefully. "I know this isn't easy for you, but maybe it's time to decide who you really want." Those words struck deep within me, a truth laid bare that demanded confrontation with myself and everything I'd been avoiding. Yet fear gripped me tightly. Stepping away from one life meant leaving behind everything familiar, even if it was suffocating. "I can't just walk away," I whispered more to myself than him. "Why not?" His eyes searched mine earnestly as if looking for answers hidden beneath layers of confusion. I took a deep breath. Thoughts raced through my mind like wild horses galloping free, my husband's indifference flashing before me alongside fleeting memories of warmth shared with this man sitting across from me now. How could one person feel so right while another felt so wrong? "I don't know," I finally admitted, frustration bubbling within as tears threatened to spill over at any moment. He reached out again but stopped short, hesitant yet hopeful, as if sensing how fragile this moment was for both of us. "Whatever you decide," he said softly, "I'll support you." Those words hung heavy in the air. They carried weight beyond their simple meaning, an acknowledgement that whatever choice lay ahead would not only affect us both but ripple outward into every facet of our lives. As we sat there enveloped in silence punctuated only by distant laughter and clinking glasses around us, the enormity of what lay ahead loomed larger than ever before, an uncharted territory filled with potential heartbreak or unexpected joy waiting just outside our grasp. Then suddenly, without warning, a figure appeared at the entrance, a familiar silhouette cutting through the crowd like a knife slicing through tension-filled air. My husband stood there scanning the room until his gaze landed on us. Panic surged within as realization crashed over me like icy water dousing flames. I hadn't expected him here tonight, nor did I want him to see us together like this, not when everything felt so precarious already. What is he doing here? The question echoed loudly in my mind while dread settled heavily in my stomach. He approached slowly. Each step felt agonizingly deliberate, as if time itself stretched out cruelly before us. My heart raced wildly at what confrontation lay ahead, and whether it would shatter everything I'd been trying to piece together these past few weeks or provide clarity amidst chaos instead. The stranger's expression shifted instantly, his earlier warmth replaced by tension mirroring mine while we both braced ourselves for whatever storm brewed on our horizon. A storm fueled by secrets unspoken yet palpable enough to threaten all we held dear. My breath caught as our eyes met one last time, the weight of uncharted possibilities swirling between us, and then everything changed irrevocably when reality came crashing down around us. The air around us thickened, heavy with the weight of unspoken truths. I stood there, caught between the lingering warmth of stolen moments and the reality that was closing in like a vice. The stranger's eyes held a mixture of fear and longing, reflecting my own turmoil. I could sense the neighbor's watchful gaze from across the street, a silent witness to our unraveling. Maybe we should just, he began, but the words hung in the air, unfinished and fraught with meaning. I could see him wrestling with his thoughts, grappling with the implications of what lay ahead. Just what? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. The tension crackled between us like static electricity, and I felt an urgent need to bridge the gap that had widened since our first encounter. End this, he said finally, his tone resolute yet tinged with sadness. Before it gets any more complicated. Complicated. That single word echoed in my mind as if it were a bell tolling for something lost. My heart raced at the thought of letting go of this connection that had brought me back to life in ways I never thought possible. But was it worth risking everything? I glanced out toward my house where my husband sat oblivious to the storm brewing around him. The familiar contours of our life together felt suffocating now, a cage made of routine and silence. Yet here I was on the precipice of something new, standing beside someone who seemed to understand me in ways no one else ever had. But what would happen next? The neighbor's suspicions were growing daily. He watched from his porch as if waiting for something to unfold. If he confronted me, or worse, if he confronted him, what would be left? I don't want to lose you, I confessed quietly, feeling vulnerable under his intense gaze. You won't lose me, he replied softly, but maybe we need some distance. Distance? The very notion sent a shiver down my spine. It felt like a betrayal to all those moments we had shared, the laughter, the tenderness that had blossomed amidst my emotional drought. Yet deep down, perhaps he was right, perhaps it was time to step back before everything unraveled completely. The festival lights twinkled in the distance as people milled about outside, their laughter echoing through the night air like an invitation to forget my troubles for just a moment longer. But standing here now felt like standing on shifting sands, every choice seemed precarious. I'll think about it, I said finally, though uncertainty lingered like fog around us. He nodded slowly but didn't move closer or reach for me as he usually did, a sign that we were both retreating into our respective corners for self-preservation. As we parted ways that night, I felt an emptiness settle in where warmth once thrived. My heart clenched at the thought of losing what little connection we had forged amid my cold marriage. Yet as I walked home under the starry sky, doubt gnawed at me relentlessly. Inside my house, silence enveloped me like a thick blanket smothering any flicker of hope left within me. My husband sat engrossed in his usual evening routine, his eyes glued to the television screen while I moved about quietly, avoiding any unnecessary confrontation or questions about where I'd been. But in that silence lay another kind of noise, a cacophony of thoughts swirling around my mind as I replayed every moment spent with him, our laughter at local breweries over craft beers, quiet conversations during strolls through city parks, even those fleeting touches that ignited something deep within me. I couldn't shake off that feeling, the knowledge that something inside me had changed irrevocably since meeting him. Days turned into weeks as tension mounted between us all. My husband remained oblivious while the neighbors' suspicions grew sharper with each passing interaction between us, two strangers turned confidants turned, whatever we were becoming. Then came an unexpected twist. One evening while preparing dinner alone in our kitchen, my phone buzzed insistently on the counter, a message from him flashing across its screen, "We need to talk." My heart raced at those words, they felt both thrilling and terrifying all at once. What could possibly warrant such urgency? Had someone seen us together again? Had he decided it was time for us to end things after all? I paced anxiously before replying, "What's wrong?" His response came swiftly, "Meet me at our spot." Our spot, the park bench beneath those sprawling oak trees where sunlight filtered through leaves like blessings from above, was where everything had begun for us. It was sacred ground now laden with memories too precious to ignore but too risky to revisit openly. Against every instinct urging caution and restraint, I found myself drawn there despite knowing full well what lay ahead could change everything once more. As dusk settled over Asheville casting long shadows across familiar paths leading toward uncertainty, I arrived breathless yet apprehensive about facing whatever awaited me there beneath those whispering branches. He stood waiting under their sheltering canopy when I approached, a silhouette against fading light filled with anticipation mingled with trepidation etched across his features. "What is it?" I asked breathlessly upon reaching him, a sense of dread creeping into my bones as if foreboding something monumental loomed just beyond reach. "I heard from someone," he hesitated then took a deep breath before continuing, "Someone saw you, with your husband." My heart sank at those words, the implications crashing over me like waves against rocky shores threatening everything I held dear yet desperately sought to protect at all costs. "What do you mean?" Panic surged within me as reality closed in around us tighter than ever before, its grip unyielding and merciless against fragile hopes built upon fleeting moments shared amidst chaos surrounding our lives intertwined by fate's cruel hand. And then came another revelation, a twist neither expected nor prepared for, that shattered any remaining illusions left intact within this fragile web spun by desire and deception alike.